Chapter 61, Purifying the Wicked Witch. The flame witch Ekta and the insect witch Andini are the two weakest witches in the monastery. Not only are their magical powers weak, but their physical bodies are also frail. They are unable to compare in any aspect of ability to the other 5 witches. The fire witch is alright, although not outstanding, but at least her fire abilities are astonishingly destructive. As long as they are used properly, they can also cause widespread damage. And the wicked witch is very awkward. Her essence is an object about the size of a house, covered with countless holes like a beehive. Inside and outside of her essence, including within the holes, there are countless insects crawling densely. Naturally, her abilities are related to this, in other words, summoning and controlling insects to fight for herself. This way of fighting is fine for bullying ordinary people. After all, it makes the bugs fearlessly bite and burrow into the human body, causing terrible damage. But for those with a little bit of magic ability, they are immediately not enough. Without saying anything else, let's just talk about the current Hawthorne. If he sets a fire with his burning hands, he can immediately summon a swarm of insects. Luck is a little better now. It is not impossible for Hawthorne to take down this witch in a one-on-one. From this, it can also be known that these two witches are essentially very weak. As long as there is no interference from other witches, purifying them is no problem at all. Understood. The two witches nodded in unison, their eyes burning with fierce ambition. Now, they just need to wait patiently for Celine to leave, and then wait for the other nuns to go out for food, of course, mainly waiting for that troublesome guy, Triss, to leave the monastery. And only when there is either the flame witch or the abomination witch left in the monastery, they can make their move on them. There won't be many opportunities like this, so they must seize every one. A few days later. Heidi, my dear sister, what exactly do you want me to see? Oh dear, you'll know once you come in. It won't be a surprise if I tell you. Come on, go in quickly. At the entrance of the Hawthorne room, Heidi warmly pulled another nun wearing a thick black robe with a serene and beautiful face, inviting her into her own room. She is the wicked witch Andini, whose hobby is releasing insects from her body and having them crawl into the palms and soles of young girls. While gnawing on their bone marrow, she listens to their cries of intense pain and simultaneously feeds on their souls. However, it is this cruel witch who is currently disguised with a calm face and innocent eyes, like a beautiful nun who is ignorant of worldly affairs but harbors good intentions. At this moment, listening to Heidi's words, with trust in her fellow sisters, Andy no longer asked any more questions, pushed open the door, and stepped inside. Foo. Suddenly, 4 thick, dark green tentacles swiftly attacked, wrapping around her wrists and ankles. The tentacles were surrounded by black mist, and immediately blocked all of her magic powers. In an instant, the witch's face changed dramatically. Heidi, you betrayed me. Ugh. She spoke, and her beautiful eyes suddenly began to widen and split, in an instant turning into numerous compound eyes resembling insects. One on the left and one on the right occupied most of her face, and they continued to expand and multiply. What else does she want to do to resist? Suddenly, her chest was pierced by a sharp blade. Behind her, Yuta appeared abruptly, with a fierce killing intent in his purple eyes, as if he wanted to personally kill his own sister. And under this heavy blow, Andini was instantly shocked beyond measure. Yuta, how could you? How could you? She couldn't believe it, and just at this moment, in front of her, Hawthorne, who had been hiding behind the door with protective spells all over his body, took a step forward and placed his hand on her, silently chanting, "Purify." Buzz. A milky white purifying light shone, and within the white light, the witch's eyes quickly returned to their original beautiful appearance. Her expression gradually changed from shock to confusion, and finally her head tilted and her body went limp, falling into unconsciousness. Success. Heidi then retracted her tentacles. Immediately, the monstrous witch's body leaned forward, and Hawthorne quickly reached out his hands, embracing her soft body in his arms. Outside the door, Yuta sheathed her blade and entered the house, her expression still cold and indifferent, as was her habit. Meanwhile, Heidi beamed with a brilliant smile and said to Hawthorne, "Congratulations, Master. Hawthorne smiled and felt most of the anxiety in his heart dissipate. Then he let out a sigh and said, it went fairly smoothly. After reaching level 3, his life gradually returned to normal. Every day, he would go to the study with the witch and read alone, striving to learn all the remaining spells in the 5 introductory books. Heidi and Yuta, on the other hand, set traps in their respective rooms and then carefully observed the movements of the other witches every day, quietly waiting for the right moment to take action. Such opportunities are hard to come by. Unless there is a necessary reason, witches rarely leave the monastery, let alone 2 people together. Hawthorne and the others couldn't rush it, so they had no choice but to wait patiently. However, his patience was not so abundant. The matter of the butterfly was like a huge mountain, weighing on his heart and making him restless and unable to restrain himself. We must get it as soon as possible. God knows what unexpected events will happen if we continue to delay like this. Finally, after enduring such painful torment, 8 days have passed and they have finally waited for an opportunity when both Chui Bai Si and Ai Kuta have left. However, the relatively easy victory resulted in a meager harvest. The Wicked Witch only gave him 350 purification points, far less than the gains brought by Heidi and Yuta. However, there's no need to panic. During the Night of the Witches who have been purified can still provide themselves with a source of income, so all he needs to do is focus on purification and patiently wait. He envisioned a bright future in his heart, then took out his spellbook and cast a healing spell on Andini. The milky white healing light lit up and then quickly extinguished. But even though it was just a basic spell, it was enough for this weak witch. Andrea slowly opened her eyes, her beautiful eyes filled with confusion. But as soon as she saw Hawthorne's face, her expression immediately turned into joy. "Master." Saying that, she quickly stood up, stretched out her arms, and embraced his waist. "Ah!" Hawthorne gently stroked her hair, feeling the miraculous power of purification deep in his heart. At the same time, he softly said, "Andy, sorry, I know you're still injured, but the matter with the butterfly is extremely urgent. Can you now send your bugs to the slums to gather some information?" Anini nodded vigorously. "Of course, Master, it's okay. This little injury won't affect my abilities." After being purified, she had already established a telepathic connection with Hawthorne, so as soon as he spoke, she immediately understood what his intentions were. Speaking, her nun's hat moved on its own without wind. Then, several mosquitoes flew out, passed through the window, and headed straight for the slums. Hawthorne was filled with anticipation. Although the insect witch was weak, she possessed the ability to command insects to eavesdrop on intelligence, which other witches did not have. With her help, it is conceivable that whether it is to find out the whereabouts of the butterfly or to understand the current situation of the slums, it will be twice as effective. And then, he saw the girl's eyes light up. "Master, Ekta has returned to the monastery alone." Chapter 62, Exposed Secret. Time goes back 10 minutes ago. The flame witch Ekta walked alone in the alleys of the slums, hiding her fiery wavy hair in a nun's hat. Her expression was filled with the customary sorrow for the suffering of life, but her heart was full of joy. She just took a glance at her prey, a young widow in her 20s, with a voluptuous figure and recently deceased husband. She is so greedy that she plans to capture her tonight and burn her body with a fierce fire, to see how delicious her soul can become under the stimulating pain brought by this high temperature. And as she was thinking like this, a familiar voice came from behind. "Hector, you look great, don't you?" Suddenly, the flame witch's good mood took a big hit. She turned her head back, and her fiery red pupils instantly filled with disgust. That was the voice of Quibisi. In the past, she had also been subjected to the ridicule of this snake, so naturally she would not have any good feelings towards the other party. Behind her, Chui Bai Si swayed her slender waist like a water snake and walked up to her. With a smile on her lips, she asked, "How was your harvest today?" Ekta lowered her head and said, "It's okay, barely enough for me to use." "That's not very good, is it?" Chui Bai didn't hold back, but she didn't mock her either. Instead, she sighed softly, "Be careful these days, it's best not to keep going to the slums. Look at Yuta, how clever she is." She clearly said she was going to find the butterfly, but these days she has been hiding in the monastery and not going anywhere. She said this on purpose. Although she has a sharp tongue and enjoys sarcasm, she is not a fool. She is well aware that if the remaining 5 witches, even if only 3 of them unite and target her together, then even with Celine's support, her future days will not be easy. So, every time she openly mocks a witch, privately, she would try to win over another witch, as if genuinely caring for the other person, but in reality, she is stirring up conflicts between her and the other witches. Just like she is doing now. Sure enough, upon hearing her words, the flame witch raised an eyebrow and pondered in her mind, it seems, indeed. She didn't dare to speak ill of Yuta, after all, the latter's strength far surpassed hers. But judging from her expression, Cui Bizi understood that her plan had succeeded. She immediately smiled, then continued, and there's Heidi too. Ah, she's quite busy. Have you seen the white-haired human she takes care of? Have you ever smelled the special scent coming from both of them? Upon hearing this, Ekdad's expression immediately turned astonished. Are you saying that the 2 of them? Over the course of more than a month, the 2 sides naturally met more than once. However, Ekta controls fire, while Heidi is a deep-sea witch who loves water and is much stronger than her. Therefore, she didn't dare to get too close and only greeted from a distance before going about her own business. She had naturally caught some strange smells, but she didn't dare to make any guesses in her heart until Cui Bizi revealed it at this moment. Only then did she realize that Heidi might have indeed done something with that man. Yes. Cui Bizi covered her mouth and giggled, a noble witch, being pinned down by a lowly human on the bed, lifting up her snow-white buttocks to let him enter from behind, while shouting how amazing her master is, and sticking out her tongue while rolling her eyes. She deliberately exaggerated, and immediately, Ekta's face was full of disgust. That's really disgusting. Kwabisi almost burst into laughter in her heart, but on the surface, she just let out a light sigh. There's nothing we can do. Maybe she has lived for too long and developed some peculiar habits. You go back first, I still have some things to buy. Remember what I just said, don't casually enter the slums. She turned and left. Actually, she didn't have anything to buy at all. She just wanted to avoid other witches seeing her with Ekta, to avoid anyone suspecting her of sowing discord. She plans to turn around and immediately return to the monastery together. Ekta nodded gently and kept in mind the 2 things, Yuta is not responsible, and Heidi is disgusting, then walked alone towards the monastery. And at this moment, in the monastery, upon hearing this news, Hawthorne's heart suddenly raced. What a great opportunity. His patience has long been worn out. The crisis of the butterfly is like a mountain pressing on his head, making him unwilling to wait for the next opportunity when Cui Bizi is not in the monastery. He wants to subdue the flame witch now. Thinking this way, he turned his head and looked at Heidi and Yuta. Darlings, can we fight one more time? No problem. Yuta's expression immediately turned serious. I didn't even use much strength just now, so subduing Hector again will be a piece of cake. I am too. Heidi also nodded quickly. The flame witch is very weak, the 2 of us can definitely take her down. So, time is of the essence. Hawthorne nodded solemnly. Although it may be a bit rushed, we can no longer afford to wait. We must purify Hector immediately. Master, I'm going too. Annie quickly said, but then Hawthorne pushed her back down. No, you've just been purified, your powers haven't fully recovered. Don't worry, Yuta and Heidi's powers are enough to defeat the fire witch. Saying this, he patted her back and said, rest assured and take a break. It's up to your abilities to find the trace of the butterfly. Leave the battle to me. After speaking, he stood up and began to give orders. Heidi, you and I will ambush in the bathroom. Yuta, you go invite Ekta to your room. The 2 witches nodded in unison and then began to act. Hawthorne and Heidi hid in the bathroom, using their water conjuring skills to create a large amount of ice water as a trap. Meanwhile, Yuta walked alone towards the main gate of the monastery. Coincidentally, she ran into the returning flame witch. When they met, Ekta was about to say hello when she heard Yuta impatiently say, Ekta, come to my room quickly. There's something I need your help to solve. Suddenly, the flame witch's smile faded. What's the matter? I found something, possibly a clue to the butterfly's trail, Yuta recited the lie Hawthorne had taught her, but I'm not sure, so I wanted to ask you, who is more familiar with fire, to come and identify it. The flame witch was about to agree without hesitation, but as the words reached her lips, a confusion suddenly appeared in her mind. Wait, hasn't she been staying indoors all these days? Where did the clue come from? What specifically? She asked. You say it, and I'll think about it. Yuta opened her mouth, not knowing what it was. She was never good with words, and at this moment, she was even more anxious. Suddenly, she reached out and forcefully grabbed her wrist, saying, "Come to my room and you'll see." The flame witch was taken aback, her eyes flickering. However, she also knew that there was a huge difference in strength between them. So, she kept her guard up, then nodded gently and said, "All right, I will go with you." Yuta breathed a sigh of relief, then turned around and led her through the gravel path in the middle, heading towards his own room, which was now the monastery's communal bathroom. Ekta was pulled by her like this, and a layer of ominous premonition enveloped her heart. Then she saw Yuta push open the door and say, "Take a good look, this is my discovery." Fu. At the moment the door was opened, countless thick tentacles stretched out from inside, heading straight for the wrists and ankles of the flame witch. In an instant, Ekta's pupils contracted tightly, and the nun's hat turned into ashes. A blazing fire ignited her long, fiery red wavy hair, reaching towards the sky. "Yuta, you betrayed me." Ah! A strong and icy cold stream of water suddenly shot out from the room, directly spraying onto her body. The low temperature instantly caused her immense pain, and she let out a sharp and piercing scream, "Ah!" Immediately, her face began to carbonize, and then a color similar to burning red coal emerged. The terrifying high temperature rose from her body, causing the specially cooled ice water to instantly turn into a large cloud of mist, rising into the sky, just like the thick steam that emerges when the lid of a boiling kettle is just lifted. And in the face of this terrifying high temperature, Heidi's tentacles, which already needed moisture to survive, immediately began to shrink and wither significantly. In the blink of an eye, they no longer possessed any vitality. Ekta exerted all her strength and pulled, instantly breaking free from the lifeless tentacles that had restrained her. She turned around to leave, but in the next moment, a flash of a blade appeared, and Yuta, who had been waiting on the side, also made a move. Chirp! Dash! A sharp blade pierced through her chest from behind, causing her to let out a scream of agony. Instantly, she was severely injured, despite already being somewhat weak. Don't let her run away. In the bathroom, Hawthorne rushed out with a leap, ignoring the scalding burns that the terrifying steam might cause. He reached out with one hand and placed it on her shoulder, saying, "Purify." Buzz! A milky white glow lit up, instantly enveloping her entire body. Ah! Ekta's throat let out another piercing scream, as she tried to retaliate by spewing flames. But in the next moment, a cold jet of water shot at her, while 4 tentacles rebinded her limbs. "You, damn it, Dash!" She cursed in despair, but couldn't change the outcome at all. As the purifying white light invaded her soul, she instantly lost consciousness, her body tilted, and she fainted. Success! Hawthorne breathed a sigh of relief and silently sighed that luckily everything turned out fine. At least he succeeded in purifying her. Before he could put his heart back in his stomach, a furious shout suddenly came from afar. "What are you guys doing?" 3 people looked up together and saw Cui Bai Si standing in the nearby bushes, with wide eyes and an incredulous expression, looking towards this direction. Chapter 63 Purifying Emerald Silk, Part 1. Suebi could hardly believe her eyes. What did she see? Heidi and Yuta teamed up to attack Ekta, the human who had always seemed harmless and attractive to her. However, with a strange white light, the human rendered Ekta unconscious. If it is the former, she can understand that after Ekta listened to her provocation and tried to confront 2 witches much stronger than her, she ended up being beaten up. However, the addition of this human being made her brain overheat a bit, with countless thoughts rushing into her mind, making it impossible for her to think at all. "You too, and this person." Her voice trembled, and she instinctively took a step back. "What are you doing?" she questioned, facing Chui Bai Si, who was holding the unconscious body of Ikeda. Hawthorne faced her directly, feeling his heart pounding and his brain almost shutting down. How did she suddenly come back? No, I can't speak up. Heidi has to explain. Heidi, come over here quickly. He was constantly muttering Heidi's name in his heart, but in fact, he didn't need to do so at all. Behind, Heidi also heard Triss questioning. At this moment, she rushed out of the bathroom and walked towards Triss with an awkward smile. It's not what you think, Triss. Let me explain. This is just an experiment. Ekta is actually safe. Don't come any closer. Chui Bizi took another step back and growled, stay right there. So Heidi stood still, her face full of anxiety. Hawthorne, too, was lost in thought, trying to find a plausible excuse. But how is this possible? In the past week, he has not only tried to come up with a plan for what to do after being caught red-handed by Chui Bai Si, but after countless considerations, he frustratingly realized that unless Chui Bai Si herself has a problem with her brain, there is simply no way to deceive her. For now, we can only try a desperate measure. He gritted his teeth and then took out his spell book, infused it with magic, and used healing spell to heal Ekta, trying to wake her up as soon as possible. Later, Yuta also came up with a ready-made excuse. Please believe us, Chui Bizi, Ikeda has nothing to do with it. If you don't believe me, you can ask her yourself. Just wait a moment, she will wake up soon. As soon as her words fell, within the white light of the healing spell, Ekta slowly regained consciousness, her eyes filled with confusion. As soon as she saw Hawthorne's face clearly, she immediately showed a joyful expression and, like other witches, was about to open her mouth and call out, Master. Hawthorne quickly covered her mouth and gave her a stern look, indicating that the situation was urgent and she should act accordingly. Only then did he release his hand and allow her to speak. Ekta understood and, holding onto his arm, struggled to stand up. Then he turned his head and looked sincerely into Chui Bai's emerald eyes, saying, Sister, I'm fine. There may have been some misunderstandings, including what you said earlier about Heidi and Yuta, the two sisters. But rest assured, there is absolutely nothing for you to worry about. She was also trying to make up for her mistakes, but at this moment, her intimate gesture of holding Hawthorne's arm, Hawthorne's action of covering Ekta's mouth, and the three witches, who were now vaguely standing around Hawthorne as the center, were all seen by Emerald's eyes. The light in her vertical pupils flickered, and in the end, she chose to keep all her doubts buried deep in her heart. Then, she smiled brightly and said, So, that's how it is. I really misunderstood. Saying that, she took a step back, then turned around, ready to leave. I have a small matter to attend to. Oh dear, I forgot to take care of it just now. You guys go ahead and play, I'll be right back. Hawthorne squinted his eyes, and his heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Caught. Indeed, in this situation, no matter what reasons there may be, it is impossible to cover up. She has already seen through her own lies. Now, she must be planning to go outside, then contact Celine, and cleanse the monastery. If something like this really happens, I'm completely screwed. So, get started. He let out a low roar in his heart, then released Ekta's body, took a quick step, and rushed straight towards Chui Bai Si. Behind him, Heidi and Yuta no longer hesitate, giving up all illusions and hopes. The former raises her hand and utters a spell almost instantly, Evert's black tentacles. In an instant, countless black mists emerged at the feet of Chui Bai Si, and several thick black tentacles wrapped around her ankles, completely immobilizing her body. Yuta, on the other hand, extended a steel blade from the palm of his hand, leaped lightly, and quickly reached his maximum speed, aiming directly for Chui Bai Si's neck. As expected, Emerald Silk cursed under her breath. Heidi and Yuta had truly betrayed them. Damn it, you bunch of bastards, you all have to die in the future. Although she cursed in her heart, she didn't waste any time and quickly made a series of complex hand gestures. She chanted a mysterious incantation, saying, Cloud kill. In an instant, a large dense dark green poisonous mist gushed out from her hands, and in the blink of an eye, it filled half of the monastery's space, also blocking Hawthorne and the three witches' line of sight. Death Cloud Technique, 5-ring spell, creates large patches of poisonous clouds. Ordinary people who inhale even a single breath will immediately die. This is a high-level magic spell that even Heidi has never mastered, but Chui Bai Si can freely use it. This is actually quite normal. Her spellcasting ability is actually stronger than Heidi's. It's just that she excels in using lowly toxins, which the witches are almost immune to. That's why her ranking within the monastery is so low. And Hawthorne, as a human with no immunity to toxins, may not have any means to counteract Chui Bai Si's other poisonous methods, but when faced with this spell, he also has an excellent strategy to deal with it. He immediately raised his hand, and then, a cryptic incantation resounded from his throat, Gust of Wind. Wind creation technique. When he reached level 2, the system gave him the second ring spell. It may not be useful at other times, but when dealing with fog, it's simply unbeatable. Fu. The strong wind blew, and in an instant, the dark green dense fog dispersed rapidly, filling the entire monastery in the blink of an eye. Its concentration also instantly halved, and within a few seconds, it decreased to a level that was basically harmless to humans. Hawthorne held his breath, even though he couldn't help but inhale a couple of puffs of poisonous mist while reciting the incantation. However, thanks to the protection of the false life spell, he was mostly unharmed. Cough. When the dense fog that obstructed his vision completely dispersed, he couldn't help but cough, covering his chest due to the itchiness in his throat. And Yuta cut through the poisonous mist and landed in the spot where Chui Bai Si had originally stood, slashing with a knife. Chi. The bright flash of the knife was fleeting, but only a few black tentacles summoned by Heidi were cut off. The dense poisonous mist dissipated, and the four of them realized that Chui Bai Si had disappeared without a trace, leaving only a slender pale pink vine on the ground. That is one part of her body. When she encounters danger, she will unleash a terrifying energy by breaking off a vine, allowing her body to reach its maximum speed in order to escape. This is her means of escaping and saving her life in an emergency situation, and it is also the main reason why Hawthorne finds it difficult, unwilling to have a falling out with Turquoise without being completely certain. Chapter 64 Purifying Emerald Silk, Part 2. Seeing this vine, Heidi's face turned pale immediately, knowing that it was too late to say anything. She has already left, escaped to who knows where. A sense of despair inevitably arose in her heart, knowing that all her hopes and wishes had been in vain. Quibisi had already run far away, and with her abilities, how could they possibly find her in the vast world outside? And when she informed Celine of the news, the Great Witch returned to the monastery with anger. Perhaps it was the moment when their doomsday arrived. Yuta gritted her teeth in frustration, but managed to keep her composure. Tracking is no longer possible, we must abandon this place and move immediately. She made what she believed to be the most cautious judgment, and then Hawthorne looked up and glanced at the scorching sun in the sky. A doubt inevitably arose in his mind. No. Now is the noon time, when the crowd outside is at its peak. Does Chui Bai Si really dare to expose her terrifying true form and give it her all, sprinting all the way on the busy street outside? I see, maybe not. She must have found a place and temporarily hidden herself. Sigh. If we look at it from this perspective, currently, the most suitable place for her to hide is also the blind spot in our psychology. At this thought, he then accessed the system, opened the map function, and began to overlook. And sure enough, in addition to the 4 green dots representing myself, Heidi, Yuta, Ekta, and Anini, there is also a prominent red dot representing hostile creatures. Seeing it, Hawthorne's lips curved into a smile. Emerald Silk, you really are still hiding in the monastery. In the study, Chui Bai Si curled up in the corner, slowly retracting the green, pink, and yellow vines that were exposed on her body back into herself. In no time, she returned to her enchanting nun appearance. At this moment, she no longer had the calm and indifferent expression and the playful mocking smile on her face. All that was visible was anger, and the gnashing of teeth towards the betrayer. Those 2 bastards, and that human, unforgivable, they must pay the price. However, why did they become like this? What happened in the monastery? Did Celine's prophecy not anticipate this? She felt her heart trembling, Luckily she saw the dense water vapor rising from the monastery and knew it must be Ekta using her power, so she quickened her pace and went back to take a look. Otherwise, if she slows down for just 2 seconds, by the time Heidi and Yuta hide Ekta's body, she might be caught off guard by these two guys and then be betrayed by them. She was thinking, also feeling a sense of fear, breathing slightly, trying to regain strength, waiting for an opportunity. This study room is usually empty, as long as one patiently waits until the sun sets and the earth falls into darkness, one can escape from the monastery and gain true safety and freedom. Then, she heard the footsteps of those people outside the window, as well as Heidi's anxious voice, "Master, what should we do next? The power of the great witch Celine is too strong. Even if all of us join forces, we cannot be her match." "Master." Heidi, that guy, actually sincerely calls that human his master. Emerald Silk couldn't help but curse angrily in her heart. You are definitely the most despicable and shameless witch since the birth of the material world. How dare you acknowledge a human as your master? I'm afraid that every part of your body has been thoroughly exploited by him now. Ha! Despicable, shameless. Fortunately, there is still a little self-awareness. Oh, when Celine comes back, you will all have to pay the price. She angrily scolded, then heard Yuta's voice also sounding, "Yeah, with Chui Bizi's speed, she must have run far by now. We can't possibly track her down. The only way out is to escape quickly before Celine comes back." The emerald green silk eyebrows furrowed tightly, not understanding how even Yuta had fallen into this state. Damn it, if these two guys team up, I might not be able to escape if they ambush me. Fortunately, they indeed thought that I had already left the monastery. So, as long as they don't rush in and flip through the books, I am safe. She thought to herself. Outside, the last sound was the voice of the white-haired man. We definitely can't compete with Celine. So, let's go back to our rooms and pack up, only take the most important things. We'll leave immediately and go to the East Harbor district to hide for a while. Understood, the two witches responded in unison, and then their footsteps gradually faded away. Upon hearing this, Chui Bizi felt that she was basically safe, and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Her heart settled back into her stomach, and then she clenched her teeth in secret. Donggang district, right? Ha, wait until I call Celine back. I will definitely find each and every one of you and give you unimaginable torment. Especially that human, making the noble witch call you master. Just wait and see, I will torture you. I want to stick a bee's stinger into the tip of every finger on your hand, making you suffer. I want to let the venomous fangs of a snake pierce through the palm of your hand, making you feel excruciating pain while injecting corrosive venom into your bone marrow. I also want to let the jellyfish sting your feet, let its venom erode the soles of your feet. Foo, foo. Suddenly, a black mist emerged from beneath her feet, followed by several thick, dark green tentacles that instantly bound her curled-up body. The corrupting energy began to erode her body, and in an instant, her nun's habit became tattered and worn. Dash. Emerald Silk couldn't help but let out a painful groan from her throat. She wanted to try to break free, but Heidi's magical attack was just the beginning, and something even more deadly was yet to come. Ga. The window in the study suddenly opened, and a petite figure leaped into the room. With a wave of her small hand, a flash of a knife appeared. Chirp. The sword light slashed across her shoulder, and greenish-purple poisonous blood gushed out. At the same time, there was the piercing wail of the venomous witch. Ah! Intense pain and the agony of losing strength came together, followed by a burst of intense crisis. I will die. Intense fear climbed up her heart, making her soul tremble. No, we must leave at all costs. Roar. She let out a low growl that sounded like a wild beast from her throat, then her entire body rapidly swelled, elongated, twisted, and transformed. Her once delicate skin turned into rough green, purple, and pink vines, entwined together, resembling a coiled, colorful giant snake. And those vines on her body, unexpectedly entwined around Heidi's tentacles, as if they were trying to take control. Chapter 65 Purifying Emerald Silk, Part 3. However, it is obvious that Cui Baisi did not have the idea of comparing her magic skills with Heidi. Immediately after, the vines that entangled Heidi's tentacles broke simultaneously, while Cui Baisi's main body in the middle slipped out like an active eel from countless tentacles, rushing straight towards the study door. At the cost of hurting herself, she is determined to escape today no matter what. In the room, Yuta, standing still, raised her little hand and made another stroke, instantly adding a terrifying wound to the emerald silk's body. Several vines that composed her body fell off, and large amounts of poisonous blood splattered on the floor of the study, like beautiful petals. But all of this couldn't stop Cui Baisi's movements. Her body accelerated to its highest speed in mid-air and headed straight for the tightly closed door of the study. Clang! The locked wooden door was shattered by her impact, and Cui Baisi also felt as if her head had collided with a steel plate, causing immense pain. No time to secretly curse the quality of the study room's door, she then accelerated towards the main entrance of the monastery. There are no more options now, since they have already been discovered. The only way now is to run away. She panicked and ran without thinking. However, she didn't know that outside the study door, someone had been waiting for a long time. At the entrance, Hawthorne saw her rushing out from the main gate as expected. He immediately leaped forward, opened his arms, and embraced her slender body. He now has the magical effect of great stride, and his jumping ability is not inferior to that of the world champion in his previous life. Therefore, he easily hugged the body of this beautiful and poisonous snake, and at the same time, he let out a low roar from his mouth, "Purify!" Wang! A milky white light shone, instantly enveloping her entire massive body. The enormous emerald silk body began to struggle violently, trying to shake him off, but her resistance seemed so feeble because her body was rapidly shrinking, becoming smaller. In no time at all, she had transformed back into her nun form. Bang! She and Hawthorne fell heavily to the ground. Luckily the muddy surface cushioned the fall and it didn't hurt, but it was enough to make her feel extremely embarrassed. "You, go die." Looking at this filthy man, he actually dares to embrace his own body with his arms, and he uses that inexplicable white ability to plunder his own strength. Cui Baisi's face instantly turned pale with anger, almost losing her sanity under the rage. This man, he must be the mastermind. To kill him first, kill him, perhaps other witches will be saved too. The thought emerged in her mind. She opened her mouth, revealing her fangs disguised as two small tiger teeth, and fiercely bit into Hawthorne's neck. Woo! Hawthorne only felt a sharp pain in his neck, but the pain quickly disappeared, replaced by a very comfortable tingling sensation that made his tense nerves relax slightly. But this feeling, it made him even more horrified. This meant that the poison of Cui Baisi was taking effect on himself. Damn it, among the spells I have learned, there is simply no means to defend against toxins. I can only rely on the effect of false life to resist them. Before taking action, Hawthorne had already cast a spell to enhance himself, creating a second-level, false life, for himself. This allowed him to barely withstand the injection of the toxins from the emerald silk for a short period of time, but it wouldn't last long at all. After all, Cui Baisi is essentially a more powerful spellcaster than Heidi. Stop for me. He suddenly widened his eyes in anger, reached out and grabbed Cui Baisi by the neck, trying to push her mouth away from his neck. However, he was horrified to find that his strength was still pitiful compared to this seemingly slender witch, and he couldn't move her body at all. He was so nervous that his heart was pounding, but this excited emotion also stimulated the circulation of blood throughout his body, rapidly transporting the toxins through his blood vessels to various parts of his body. "Emerald, open your mouth." Behind, Heidi cursed angrily, then her figure flashed and she arrived beside the two people. Without caring about concealing herself, her arms rapidly extended, and her 5 fingers quickly thickened. In a moment, they transformed into 10 terrifying dark green tentacles, binding Cui Baisi's limbs and also wrapping around her neck. Dash! Emerald Silk let out a painful groan from her throat, but her jaw continued to exert force as thick venom flowed through her fangs, injecting madly into Hawthorne's carotid artery. "Idiot, shut up!" Yuta also arrived shortly after, extending his index finger. The purple nails reflected a sharp gleam, and then he ruthlessly stabbed towards Chui Bizi's face. Chirp! The sharp blade instantly pierced through her face, severing the tendons of her chewing muscles. Yuta's face turned cold, and her fingers forcefully stirred inside her mouth, as if a steel knife had made a turn in the mouth of Chui Bizi. In an instant, her teeth were cut off one by one, and a gushing flow of crimson blood poured out. Ooh! Hawthorne finally escaped from her venomous grasp, but she couldn't feel the presence of her wounds at all. The vitality brought by the false life had also been completely drained. He now feels all over his body as if he is soft and weak, like soaking in warm water. His muscles can't exert any strength, and even his brain starts to feel dizzy, floating as if he is drunk. This is a sign of deep poisoning. Even though she was ambushed by Heidi and Yuta, suffered serious injuries, and had her powers cleansed to a great extent, Chui Bizi's foundation was still there. She still had sufficient strength to launch a deadly counterattack against Hawthorne, a human who had no immunity against toxins. No, this toxin is too deadly. I must find a way to cleanse myself of the poison. Chui Bizi's body has already been completely suppressed by Heidi. Now all that's left is to wait for her purification to be completed. However, the matter of being poisoned is quite urgent. Before his consciousness completely fades away, he tremblingly extends a finger and summons the system, bringing up the interface for construction. Now, Adeline, Ekta, and Triss have all been purified one after another, so their rooms have become vacant and can be used by Hawthorne to build more primary structures. And now, the most crucial choice is undoubtedly the medical room that can alleviate various negative conditions. That's it. It can eliminate toxins and help me regain my health. And as for the location, just choose one randomly. It's fine to choose here. As if a dying flame reigniting, his paralyzed body suddenly regained a bit of strength, and he forcefully tapped the system interface twice. Buzz! In another room, a gentle white light lit up, indicating that the renovation of the building was in progress. Meanwhile, the purifying white light in this room went out, signaling that the purification of Chui Bizi had also been completed. Take me to Anini, the room. Hawthorne's tongue stiffened, already paralyzed and losing consciousness. He made every effort to finish his last task, then his entire body stiffened, and he fell into a deep coma along with the purified Chui Bizi.